Hi, my name is TJ. My dad died of overdose on January 1st, 2011, and my mom is a recovering addict. God helped my mom, and now together we are here to help you. Now let's talk recovery. Here's your host, my mom, Susan Sexton-Wood.
Hi, and welcome to Let's Talk Recovery. I am your host, Susan Sexton-Wood. We have a co-host with us today, and I want to thank Terri Bogue for joining us from the Winchester area. Today, our guest is Dale Richmond. He is a KDAC 2 counselor, and he is a part of Unchained Praises in the Richmond office. Welcome, Terri and Dale. How are you?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Dale is, again, a KDAC 2, that is a drug and alcohol counselor, and he is also in recovery. I'm going to encourage him right now to share his testimony and what eventually led him to be a part of the ministry of Unchained Praises. Dale?
I was an addict for 18 years, and I was in prison and in and out of jail. And the last time that I was in jail, I went out to a church service. It took me 3 times, but the third time that I went out, I got saved. I just turned my life over. And it's been one of the best things that I could have ever done, because I had gone to treatment in 1990 in Jackson, Mississippi, and they had told me that I would never have any long-term recovery. But when I met the ultimate counselor, Jesus Christ, that changed, because October 23rd of this year will be my 24th year in recovery. So, and as far as going to Unchained Praises, I think it was like 2014. I was sitting in my office. I was employed as a substance abuse counselor, and I was making good money, but I wasn't happy. And I was sitting in my office praying one day, and I just said, God, use me. And I haven't worked since then. But I haven't wanted for anything. God's taken care of me. And Susan and I were talking the other day about there's not a lot of money in what we do, but how can you put a price on someone's life? Because if you can touch someone and help them find recovery and help them find God and salvation, there's no price that you can put on that. And that's why I'm with Unchained Praises, because I feel that we are making a difference. Everything that we do is Christ-centered. And when I was working before, I wasn't even allowed to talk about God or anything. But now we're encouraged to do that, because that's part of what Unchained Praises is. And I'm proud to be a part of that.
Dale is actually with us. It's a Goodwill grant program that allows us to have people work with us, and the grant helps provide some income for the person that is through the program. And so he's been with us about 4 months, I believe, pretty steady. He does see individuals doing one-on-one recovery plans. He helps with a peer support group that we have opened up to the teenagers, to bring them into the peer support group. Anyone that's been touched by addiction, we want to help. Unchained Praises is about the overall help with everybody that struggles with addiction. It's not just the addict, it is the parents, it is the children. And so we want to, the healing is done as a whole. We can't just heal as being an addict, but we need to heal being that mother, being that friend, being that daughter. We have a lot of healing when it comes to getting better from the drug and alcohol addiction. Terri, which is the co-host today, is a mother of an addict, and she's been on the show before, and I'm going to ask her and encourage her to just share a little bit about what's going on in her life today.
Oh, where do I start? My life is good today. I'm in a lot better place than I was when I first met Susan a little over a year ago, would you say? I went to a local meeting in Winchester, just was told about it, kind of spontaneous, stopped by to see what it was about. It was a room full of not just people struggling with addiction, but mothers and sisters and community councilmen. It had local police officers, and our Senator Raditz was there also at that time. And my life then, I felt like I was falling off a cliff. I had a son that struggled, and I didn't know how to help him, and I didn't know a whole lot about addiction. So through that meeting, I met you, and I started going to see you twice a week. And it was life-saving for me because not only did you enlighten me a lot about the struggle of addiction from the addict's perspective, but it also taught me a lot about just as a mom, what you can and cannot do. And, you said we can't love it out of them and we can't fix it for them, and we can't. So by getting involved with Unchained Praises, which that was my start with you, I love the fact that it's faith-based because that's what my family is all about. A lot of people are kind of hesitant sometimes to hear about that. And sometimes you think when you share that with people that struggle, it can be a turnoff. And sometimes it can, but I'm learning more and more that now people will come to myself and my husband, and he stays active in trying to help too, and say, I'm so thankful for what you told me. I needed to hear what you said, because it can get discouraging. Sometimes you think, are we making a difference? We had a meeting on Monday evening, and that was kind of the topic. What can we do? What else can we do? We had 2 overdose deaths in Randolph County over the weekend, and you just feel like, are we making a difference? What else can we do to reach the addict? Because I feel like through the meetings, and we've developed resources to give them now. In fact, all the pamphlets that we had done, I gave them all out that night. I mean, everybody wanted them, so I need to get some more pamphlets. Mm-hmm. But now at least there's resources for people to know what to do, where to go, because when I first was dropped into this, there wasn't any place. There wasn't any place for the parents to learn. There wasn't any place for locally for the addict that was struggling. I mean, the closest thing for anyone was for a detox was Indianapolis, and now not only are there more facilities that aren't so far away, but there are also lots of meetings and people like you that they can do one-on-one with, and the resources are there now. So to me, I'm thankful for that, and because it's like, okay, you didn't have anything before, now you do. So it's going to have to be a choice to decide, how bad do I want it? How important is getting my life back? And that first decision doesn't start with detox. That first decision starts with this. And they have to be willing to go make that decision. And it's also, through all of it, you get such a camaraderie-ship with people that struggle. You become part of their lives, and they become part of your lives. It's like a new family. Because early in recovery, when they're so lonely and lost because their life is not what they've lived for so long, and it's like that, literally like that fish out of water. They don't know what to do. How do I function today? And so when I see moms that don't have a clue that were where I was over a year ago, it feels good to be able to share and give them some insight and encouragement to help them not only help their addicted loved one, but to help them keep themselves in a good place, because we get as sick as they are, right, and sometimes worse. And it's a process. You have to learn about the addiction to learn what you can really do that helps them, because sometimes you think you're helping and you're not.
So you have taken time out of your busy schedule to attend a recovery coach class. And we actually did that together. It was a week-long course. So your life and the struggle that you have within your own family has actually helped you to want to get more knowledge of that and how to help people. And so what do you plan on doing with that recovery plan?
You're really being
recovery
pushy
coach
today, aren't you?
the recovery coach training that you've done?
I don't know exactly, but I know this will sound probably a little crazy, but my son lives in a good family. We have 4 children, and my husband, I've been married 41 years. I mean, he wasn't raised with turmoil in the home. He has parents that still live together and still love each other in the same house after 41 years. So for this to attack my family was like just dropped out of nowhere. You would have never convinced me it would have. But had it not, I see, even with the struggle that's so hard for him, and it's hard to sit and watch your child self-destruct. Had it not been for that, my life wouldn't be where it is today. And for that, I am so thankful, because I was like anybody else on the outside. I looked at addicts or anybody that struggled with any kind of substance abuse as, well, it's a choice. They made that choice to do it. They can just stop. Well, that's the farthest thing from the truth that there is. Yes, it was a choice, but if it was that easy to stop, we wouldn't have, I just heard on the news, 104 people daily in our nation dying from overdose. So what does that say? But I had to learn, and God will humble you. And so when it happened to me, I don't look at that. I mean, my son's not a piece of trash to throw away. He's a kind-hearted, loving, giving young man. And the rest of the people that struggle that I have come in contact with are the same way. Everybody's got a struggle. Theirs is just life and death, and so the fact that now I have some formal training, I guess, if you want to say, living with one is the best on-the-job training you can ever get, but it just gives you a whole different insight. I can't imagine my life without the knowledge that I have now, and not having that ability to be able to help somebody because they need it so bad. I mean, they're just to be able to encourage them and let them know that they mean something. And they know that when you tell them that they know if you mean it or not. They know. And so, because most people tell them they're not worth a crap, they're not worth saving, just let them die and get rid of them. And, that's just the mentality. And I used to be really angry at people when I hear those things. But I was just as ignorant. It's just ignorance. But if we can educate people and enlighten them to see that it's not really what maybe you think it is, it's a good place. I like it. I like where I'm at with being able to help with that. I wouldn't want somebody to take that away from me. Even if my son was stable and in a good place, it just still what my heart is to help. That's just me.
So how's your son doing now?
Right at the moment, he's struggling. And his battle has been 9 years. His started a little different. A lot of people end up in heroin addiction, starting out with pain pills, prescribed legally. His wasn't that way. He was in a relationship with his high school sweetheart for 7 years, and they were engaged to be married, and that didn't happen. And when it didn't, it rocked his world, and he didn't deal with it. Still hasn't. Better, I think, but still hasn't. So that's kind of, and he found out through pain pills that it would take some of that pain away. And so that's kind of how it all started for him, and then from the pills into the heroin, and now the fentanyl is the drug of choice for most heroin addicts. And it's not good. It's terrible. But the thing I'm thankful for with him is he never stops trying. Some addicts just don't even try, and most that stay in addiction stay there for fear of the detox. 93% of addicts stay there because of the detox, and so that should tell us how ugly that is too. But he wants his life back, but he's got to be willing to put the work in. And at this point, I'm not sure that he is. I think he's kind of got pride in his way.
Yeah.
That's just Mom's opinion, but we stand in the gap, praying for him. And I'm thankful that he was raised to know who God is, because without him, nobody's going to make it. They can get clean and stay clean, but if you want a lifetime change, you have to have Jesus in the midst of it. I mean, you're just never going to convince me that anybody's going to make it without it.
With what you do, Dale, you help people on a daily basis when it comes to addiction. And hearing that there's somebody that's currently struggling and been struggling for an overall 9 years, what things could you encourage to help both the addict and the mother?
It sounds like you're doing the right thing by not enabling him. Because a lot of people, my parents did that. Every time I got arrested, they would run to the jail and bail me out. And just be there for him, pray for him, love on him, encourage him to go to meetings around recovering people, even come to Unchained Praises for counseling, because that really does make a difference. Because I heard you say it all happened when his girlfriend broke up with him, and there's a counseling theory that says that our present troubles are caused by past issues. And when we can work through our past issues and resolve those problems, then we don't have that crutch. We don't have to no longer get high because it's not there hurting us anymore.
And I think you grow in that, because everything that you've said, we've done. I mean, I've been in this long enough that I see the difference that the meetings make. I see the difference in people's lives that one-on-ones make. I see the difference that talking to your pastor one day a week makes. Trying to change your lifestyle, trying to build a new structure and put up boundaries so you don't fall backwards. However, the hardest thing that there is to get the struggler to see that. And I think, sometimes they have the mentality that I've got this, I can do this, and I used to push hard to try to get him to meetings and to talk to Susan, and I don't do that anymore, because now I look at him and I say, no door's wider than Mother and Dad's to help you when you are ready. But until you are, we can't help you. We can't help you. You have to do the work. It's your recovery. It's not ours. If you don't work it, I'm not going to die from it. You will. So it's your effort that has to be put in. And I think that at one point in time, I was not in that place. I was that normal mom. Moms fix things and they do everything they can. And but you learn.
Right.
You learn and you grow. Because you didn't always make the right decision, but if you made the wrong one, you made the wrong one trying to help them. So,
one thing that you want to do, Dale, is to go get more knowledge of how to help people when it comes to drugs and alcohol. And you already have your KDAC 2. You're looking at going maybe back to school to do some other things to learn more about ways that you can help. What are some of the things that you've been thinking about and already in the process of doing?
One of the things that I'm in the process of doing is getting my LCAC, that's Licensed Clinical Addiction Counselor. And with that, we would be able to become a Recovery Works provider, and we would be able to help more people with that. And the school that I got my master's degree from has contacted me about going into a doctorate program, but I'm still praying about that.
Okay.
So-
One of the things that we do, and in our daily work life is definitely pray about what it is that we're going to do. Without prayer, we definitely wouldn't be who we are through
That's true.
Unchained Praises. And so that's one of the big things that we do is pray about what we are supposed to do before we implement anything. And so Terri was saying earlier that she was talking about when I told her one time that it was not her fault. And I have a saying that it's not your fault, it's not your problem, and you can't fix us. When it comes to parents of addicts, you can't take away the things that we're doing to our own lives. You can motivate us, you can encourage us, however, you cannot step in and do the work like Terri is talking about her own life, that somebody can't do the work for me. And so we need the one-on-one individual recovery plans. We need some one-on-one time with our pastor. We need the drug and alcohol counselor to help us in our daily lives, just to things that we don't understand when it comes to our addiction. The counselor can help us understand that. A lot of people self-medicate. And so we have to understand, why are we self-medicating? Why are we doing the things that we're doing and making the choices that we make? And so together with the parents and with the counselors and with pastors and just individuals that are out in the community fighting this, we can do it together. And that's the biggest thing that Unchained Praises is we are a group that come together to fight the epidemic that has taken so many lives. And it's not just the addict that is a part of this. It is the mother, it is the father, it is the pastors, it is the counselors. Dale shared with us that he has over 20 years of clean time. Recovery time is different than clean time, and recovery time is a lifestyle change. So when it comes to your recovery time, can you share with us maybe some of the bigger things that have helped you change within so many years of being in recovery yourself?
The biggest thing that helped me change was the last time I was in jail. I told you that I had gotten saved. And instead of going back to the old crowd and going back to the bars, because I used to sell drugs in the bars in Connersville, but the first Sunday I was out, a church van pulled up because I had lied to the lay minister in jail. I said, when I get out, I'll go to church, but I wasn't planning on it. But when the church van pulled up and I got on it, that was a tremendous thing that happened in my life, because now I didn't have to hang out with the old people, because God had given me a whole new set of friends, a whole new set of people that I could socialize with and be with and not worry about them using or getting high. The first time I went fishing with a friend of mine, he was the guy that was preaching at the jail. He says, well, before we go down to the lake, we got to go behind the car and do something. And in my sick, twisted mind, I got all excited. I said, yeah, we're going to smoke a joint. And we went to the back of the car, and he says, we have to pray before we go fishing. And that was one of the best days I ever had fishing, because a lot of times in recovery, if you've been in addiction for a while, when you do things like going fishing or going to a concert or something, it's like you're doing it again for the very first time, because you've always been impaired when you've done it. But it's so awesome when you can do something and remember what you've done. And I didn't fall in the lake that day either.
Yeah.
It was really good.
So somebody that might be watching today in the audience, and they may be struggling, it might be a parent, it might be the child or the addict. What would you say to them to encourage them to reach out for help and know that they don't have to live that life?
Well, you and I are proof of that, because when we reached out for help, God was there. Because I have 3 priorities in my life. It's God, recovery, and my family. because I know that without God I wouldn't have anything at all. And when I'm working with someone, I always pray with them. You know, it's just, you can't go wrong with doing that because God is so awesome and so powerful. And whenever I have troubles or anything, I can turn to God and pray. I have a pastor friend who's my mentor that I call quite often. I don't do the things that I used to do. I had to completely change my life.
Well, with Terri, she is going through her own recovery right now. And I'm going to bring this up because it is a really big deal to me that we can relate in different ways. Terri has lost 39 pounds, and she's working on her own recovery plan when it comes to that and what's worked for her. And so we can relate, even though she's not an addict and I'm a recovering addict. We can relate. I can do some of the things that she's doing in her recovery when it comes to her weight loss, and the same as we can both relate to each other with our own struggle. And so the time that I've known Terri, just the fight that she fights for her child and she fights for her own self. And today we're really good friends and she fights for me. And so it's not a physical fight, but it is prayer, and it is being there when, as she says, when someone's going to fall off a cliff, and she's there to pick them up. And so, Terri, if you could give somebody some encouragement for recovery, just recovery is one word, not addiction when it comes to drugs and alcohol, but there's food addiction, there's gambling addiction, there's many, many addictions. What could you say to someone that may be watching that has just an addiction? What can they do?
I think the first thing is to recognize it, to humble yourself, and just ask for help. Because there's nothing that we struggle with that we can do on our own. We just can't. God created us to need each other. And when you have somebody that you can go to in that struggle that's not condemning, it's not judging, just there to help you through it, it's everything. It's everything, because especially with a struggle with addiction, you know, there's a lot of judgment, and a lot of it comes from the struggler themselves. You know, they're embarrassed, they're ashamed. Ask for help. I mean, you just, it's the greatest thing you can do for yourself. You can do for yourself.
And Terri owns a ice cream store. So for her to go through that, that's a big deal to me, because that's a trigger, you know, when your emotions are playing and you want an ice cream or you go to get a brownie.
Because people that struggle, I mean, I can relate a lot to my son's struggle, because I've struggled with my weight for a long, long time. You know, I've lost it and I gain it back, and I lose it and I gain it back. And so there's a lot of parallels. So I worked last night, and I'm here to tell you that there was a nice brownie hot fudge sundae that looked really, really good, but I didn't do it. You know, I'm far enough in, strong enough now that I'm okay.
We want to thank you for joining us at Let's Talk Recovery. At Unchained Praises, we are the voice of hope.